in nominal recovery procedures to go out to the boat, or to go out to the capsule rather, and outfit it to get onto the Dragon nest, which is on the recovery ship, and bring it in for the hatch opening, side hatch, and recovering the crew inside. We'll continue to provide coverage as each of the 4 astronauts egress or exit from the capsule itself. We hopefully will get some views of them, maybe pumping fists, or as long as they're feeling healthy, of course, we'll get some views of them on the recovery ship. And after that, we are looking forward to talking to some leadership from some of the respective agencies. We're expecting to have some representatives from NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency call in to provide some final comments now that we can declare a mission success. All coming up very soon, but first we have to pay attention, of course, on the mission itself, making sure that these crew members are about to return to homes, return back to Earth safely.
Dragon, nose cone secure for entry.
Endeavour copies, nose cone secured.
Endeavour, SpaceX for entry brief.
Go for entry brief.
Shane, things are looking really good. No deltas to timeline. Vehicle is nominal. We're tracking no issues for entry. Entry targeting is also nominal. Note that you may see the landing site slightly off in the world view. That is expected and nominal due to the entry purge, and entry guidance will clean that up, so that's nominal. There's no deltas to weather. The recovery fast boats have been launched, and they're awaiting arrival. I'll copy.
Great news all around. Thanks, Chris, and we copy all.
We copy, thank you.
Further affirmation that everything continues to look good. We did have a successful deorbit burn, and so we're just really in a waiting period right now before we begin that entry coming up in approximately 10 minutes when the crew themselves will enter into the Earth's atmosphere and the heat shield being pointed in the right direction. And the vehicle itself will slow down over the course of about 7 minutes until they get on the other side into the Earth's atmosphere, and we can talk to them again, slowing down from 17,000 miles an hour to about 350 miles an hour. That briefing was spectacular, Andy. It sounds like the weather is cooperating, and all of the recovery teams are in place. In fact, the fast boats that we were talking about earlier have already deployed. We are getting ready to bring these guys home.
Yeah, there are really no changes in what we were expecting, or what we heard prior to the deorbit sequence. So in that sense, everything was great leading up to the deorbit sequence, and everything remains great right now for crew splashdown and recovery. So again, we've been hearing nothing but good news all broadcasts. We are about 5 minutes away from slewing of the Dragon to orient it correctly, and then a few minutes after that from anticipated loss of signal. Again, that communications blackout period due to the plasma buildup around the Dragon capsule.
So a lot's going to happen. Let's go through the sequence of events here while we have a little bit of time as we're waiting for that slew, of course, and then, of course, the entry sequence itself. Once the Dragon slews or orients itself right in the precise position where the heat shield is pointed in the right direction, Andy, as you mentioned, we're going to enter into a period where we will lose the signal, and that's just because of the plasma that's building up on the outside of the spacecraft. Communications can't get through, so the plasma is building up because we are using the atmosphere itself to slow us down. We're going about 17,000 miles an hour now, and we need to slow down quite a bit eventually to get us to about 15 miles an hour. So the bulk of that will happen during the entry into Earth's atmosphere. It'll shave off from 17,000 miles an hour to about 350 miles an hour. From there will be a sequence of parachute deployments. First with the drogue chutes, that'll perform the initial slowdown from 350 miles an hour to, I think it was, you said, about 120 miles an hour. And then from there, it's only a matter of seconds, about 40 seconds after drogue chute deploy, that those will be cut off, and the 4 main parachutes will deploy from the Dragon itself, slowing it down to about 15 miles an hour. We are aiming right on time for a glass-like, we've heard lake, I've heard the word pool, wave conditions. Out at Pensacola, Florida, look absolutely pristine. So things are looking pretty good for us so far.
So after splashdown, we just heard that the fast boats are on their way to the recovery site. There are 2 of them. The first fast boat will approach the Dragon capsule that's in the water and do a couple of things. Really, a lot of safety checks to make sure there isn't any ordnances or any type of chemicals in the air. They'll also do a vehicle integrity check to make sure things are looking great on the vehicle, and then give the go for the rest of the recovery team to approach the vehicle. The other recovery vessel, as long as that first fast boat is able to do its job, the other fast boat will go ahead and recover the main chute that's in the water. If that first fast boat, for whatever reason, motor failure, who knows, cannot do their job, it serves as a redundant vehicle. From there, a rigger who's typically approaches the vehicle on a jet ski will approach the vehicle and actually physically climb up on top of the Dragon capsule. They carry with them a lot of hardware, a lot of hoisting equipment that they'll need to attach to the capsule. And this is really to prepare the vehicle to be, again, lifted out of the water. There is a larger recovery vessel that has a sort of hoisting a crane of sorts on the back of it, and there's a platform or nest that the recovery vessel will hoist the Dragon capsule out of the water, place it on the nest, secure it in place. From there, a couple more checks will happen, and then we can finally get to see the crew egress the Dragon capsule.
That's right. The nest itself moves a little bit further in.
SpaceX for crew entry preparations.
Hey, SpaceX, our tablets are secured, restraints are tightened, visors are down.
We copy all. Thank you. Approximately 4 minutes, 30 seconds until anticipated comm blackout. We'll see you on the other side at 0326.
Copy 0326. Talk to you then.
4 minutes, 30 seconds takes us to 7:20. Right on the money, 7:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8:20 p.m. Eastern. So that's the comm blackout that we were talking about. It's a 7-minute period where we're really in the atmosphere at that point. The heat shield is doing its job of dissipating the 3,500 degrees of heat that's surrounding the vehicle at that time and slowing the vehicle down to 350 miles an hour. So everything is happening right on cue. 7:20 p.m. is when we're expecting that loss of signal. It is an estimate, so there might be a variation of a couple of seconds, couple of minutes. We'll stand by for that 7-minute period. So we'll be looking at approximately 7:20 to 7:27.
Yeah, and again, as we get closer to the end of the blackout communications period, we typically hear either Dragon or ground pinging each other to make sure that they do have signal acquisition. So again, 7 minutes, and we'll be with you the entire way for signal acquisition. Shortly after that, the drogue chutes will deploy. That happens at about 18,000 feet, and then at 6,500 feet, that's when the main chutes deploy. So we talked about deployment in terms of speed,
right?
But there are sensors on the Dragon vehicle that detect both velocity and pressure, and they know basically exactly when to deploy. So again, the Dragon vehicle, super intelligent and basically pilots itself. That's why even through this blackout period, the Dragon knows where it's at, it knows where it needs to go. So the crew is in good hands.
An automatic flight all the way. It really started about 8 hours ago when the Dragon itself, more than 8 hours ago at this point, undocked from the International Space Station, the Zenith port, and backed up to about 220 meters, an automatic procedure, followed by an automatic fly around. In fact, the crew were really hands-off throughout that whole period. The commander, Shane Kimbrough, and pilot Megan MacArthur were in their seats monitoring the entire procedure, while Thomas Pesquet was at the forward window that was pointed right at the International Space Station, taking pictures for about an hour and a half as it circled the International Space Station. We got awesome pictures of the International Space Station. I'm anticipating, I haven't seen them yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to them. All of that was automatic. And then, of course, the departure burns that got us to break away from the keep-out sphere and the approach ellipsoid that surround the International Space Station and get us into lower altitude, about 10 kilometers below the station, which we were at for quite some time, followed by the departure phase burn. We had a good trunk jettison, claw separation trunk jettison, and then, of course, the super important deorbit burn, all right on time. This has been a fantastic flight so far.
So we are just 25 minutes away from splashdown. And so, again, we are going to be entering that blackout communications period. But once we're on the other side, so to speak, of that, things happen very, very quickly. Drogue chutes deploy, main chutes deploy, and we're in the water just a few minutes later. And you mentioned, Gary, the WB-57 is up in the air. It is equipped with imaging technology that will be able to get pretty much the first views of the Dragon capsule on its return back to Earth. So we do expect to see that great footage here in a couple minutes as well.
We're about 30 seconds from the anticipated loss of signal. This is really the beginning of a 7-minute period where the crew themselves will be we're hearing from the Dragon teams here in Mission Control Hawthorne. They're starting to see some drag, so we are now making contact with the upper limits of the atmosphere right now. That's going to be slowing the vehicle down quite a bit, now seconds away from the anticipated loss of signal. So we're in the expected period now. That was the anticipated loss of signal. So the clock starts approximately now until about 7:27 p.m. Pacific, 10:27 p.m. Eastern. Now in the blackout and entry period, and we did hear some initial confirmation from the Dragon teams here. They're starting to see some drag, so we'll see the vehicle slow down here quite a bit.
During this re-entry phase, the team is going to be experiencing deceleration. Right now, they're going through that, as well as when the parachutes deploy. The seats actually will rotate themselves to about 26 degrees to make sure that the crew is oriented properly for when the chutes deploy. So during the downhill phase, very similar G-forces experience, about 3.5 to maybe anywhere to like 4.5 Gs. Right. The crew is definitely going to be anticipating that, and that's definitely part of their training and knowledge.
So we're standing by. We are in the blackout period right now. This blackout period expected to last an additional 6 or so minutes until we hear some of the first calls from the crew inside Dragon, now slowing down from 17,000 miles an hour to about 350 miles an hour when we hear them on the other side of this blackout period. Again, we have a WB-57 high-altitude aircraft that has deployed with an imaging system on board to get those initial views using infrared cameras that are on board. So even though it is nighttime, as long as the vehicle is able to identify and track the vehicle, which with the infrared camera will be easy, just look for the hot thing that just came from the atmosphere. It'll be able to get those initial views and confirmation of the status of the vehicle, the very first confirmation, which is very critical to the teams monitoring the operations, and of course the recovery teams that are out in the Gulf right now. Fast boats have been deployed, so we got confirmation of that. The helicopters have landed on the Go Navigator recovery vessel, and the teams are on the vessel right now, getting ready to welcome the crew on board once the fast boats get out to the capsule and rig it with some of the equipment that's necessary to hoist it on board using the A-frame on the Go Navigator spacecraft. We are really in the critical period right now, just eagerly awaiting, I think all of the teams are, the comms at the end when we have an acquisition of signal from the crew. and some of the first views of the spacecraft itself, and confirmation of the next sequence of automatic events, which are the deployment of the parachutes.
Yeah, and the Earth's atmosphere certainly does make it easier for the WB-57 to spot the hot thing. It is excess of 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, so
right.
It should be able to spot it in the sky. There should be nothing else like it at this time. We're, again, a couple minutes away from starting to exit that phase where we're seeing a lot of plasma, and so we are expecting pings from Dragon or ground to try to get that acquisition of signal. So again, I mentioned things are going to be happening very, very quickly as soon as we get out of here. Gary, we are under 10 minutes until splashdown.
I cannot wait. This is a very dynamic period, so we are listening very closely to all of the different sequence of event, because as you're saying, Andy, a lot is going to happen. We're more than halfway through this expected blackout period, an expected 7-minute period. Of course, there might be some variation, but we're expecting an acquisition of signal and initial communications from the crew before we see the deployment of the drogue parachutes and main parachutes. There's about maybe about 2 minutes difference from when we should first hear from the crew themselves at about 7:27, and about 7:29 p.m. Pacific is when we should see the drogues and the main chutes deploy. And again, I say both of them at 7:29 because that's how fast that sequence is. It's about 8-second deployment from of confirmation of the drogue chutes themselves, and 40 seconds later, the main chutes are out. It's very, very quick.
So really, any minute now, we are expecting anticipated acquisition of signal to reconnect that communications line between the spacecraft and the folks here on the ground at Earth.
From this moment in time, about a minute left in the anticipated period. Again, it's not an exact science. There might be some variation. We might hear from them early. We might hear from them late. It just depends on a couple of different factors. But we're all eagerly at the edge of our seats right now, just standing by, waiting to hear from the crew. So far, things looking good. And we'll continue to track it as we enter the final moments of this blackout period. We're getting WB views, the first views of Crew Dragon. Look at that tail. That's the 3,500 degrees.
Yes.
Look for the hot thing, right?
It is the hottest thing in the sky right now. That is such a, it's literally lighting up the
Endeavour,
sky.
SpaceX, come check.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And Dragon, we've got you. Expect automated parachute deployment, and we have you on visual.
Automated shoots.
Wonderful to hear from the crew on the other side of the blackout period, the WB-57 high-altitude aircraft providing that thermal imaging. We saw the tail of the entry of the vehicle itself. Absolutely
Dragon,
beautiful.
GPS converge. Expect nominal altitude for drogues.
Copy GPS, nominal altitude.
So again, nominal altitude for drogue deployment, that happens at about 18,000 feet. Again, good news after good news, Gary. Things are looking great for Crew-2 return.
I am loving this flight. That altitude expected 1 minute from now. Right as anticipated, Andy.
Dragon, brace for drogue window.
we're braced.
The thermal imaging system on board the WB-57 is getting us great views of the capsule, but should give us equally good views of the drogue deployment, expected seconds from now.
The capsule is traveling about 350 miles an hour. And the drogue chute's job is to slow it down to about 120.
Drogues deployed. Confirmation. That'll slow us down from 350 miles an hour to 120 miles an hour.
Dragon, visual on 2 healthy drogues, descent rate nominal.
Copy, great news.
So in about 30 seconds, the main chutes are going to come out. There are 4 of them, and they deploy at about 6,500 feet. Oh, Gary, look at this. This is an excellent view of the drogue parachutes.
There it is. Drogue separation. Main chute deploy. We'll wait for confirmation of 4 healthy mains.
Dragon, visual on 4 healthy mains, descent rate nominal.
Copy, great news, 1,000 meters.
We copy 1,000.
You really can't ask for anything better. We got confirmation of, you heard on the loops there, 4 healthy mains. Descent rate is nominal. That means we are expecting splashdown 3 minutes from now. Visually, you can see one of the mains taking slightly longer to inflate.
Meters.
But the teams are tracking that as a nominal inflation rate, and the descent rate is as expected. We do have 4 healthy mains, and we are expecting an on-time splashdown.
Six 600 meters.
We copy 6.
$600. This is a better shot of those 4 healthy main parachutes attached to the Dragon spacecraft Endeavour as it continues to descend.
400 meters.
The rate is as expected, 400 meters from splashdown. $300 meters.
200 meters, brace.
We copy 200 embracing.
Standing by for confirmation of splashdown.
Splashdown.
SpaceX C splashdown and mains release.
Copy, we heard the mains.
Endeavour, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home to planet Earth.
Hey, Chris. It's great to be back to planet Earth. Thanks to the SAE and Jackson teams. It was an honor to represent you and work with your family. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:33 p.m. Pacific, 10:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 4 astronauts of Crew-2, Shane Kimbrough, Megan MacArthur, Aki Hoshide, and Thomas Pesquet now safely returned to Earth. Confirmation that the main parachutes have been cut, and you can see from the thermal imaging camera that the fast boats are already on their way to meet up with Crew Dragon Endeavour. Now splashing down off the coast of Florida for the second time.
Team 3, we think we're...
Hey Shane, you're coming in broken, but we see stable 1.
Copy, great news.
Stable 1 is the configuration that we were hoping for. Stable 1 means it's in the ocean upright and as expected.
So the teams have been ready and waiting about 3 nautical miles away.
SpaceX Endeavour, we're going to raise our...
And Dragon, please repeat.
Yeah, we're going to raise our visors if you got that.
Hey, go for visor raise.
So it looks like the astronauts inside are going to be lifting those visors. The recovery team has been waiting about 3 nautical miles away. So it is going to take them a little bit of time to make their way to Shane, Megan, Aki, and Thomas inside of Dragon. Quick rundown of what is to come. So about a minute and a half after splashdown, Mission Control here in Hawthorne will give the go for safe approach. About 2 minutes away, 2 minutes from splashdown, the approach boat begins its inspection. We are expecting that ordnance and hypergol check to complete around the L plus 12-minute mark, around the L plus 30-minute mark.
Dragon, SpaceX com check.
Endeavour has you loud and clear, SpaceX.
We have you loud and clear as well. We stopped the boat. We have you much better now.
So some good comms checks on screen right now. That is the Dragon capsule in the background, upright and stable in the Gulf of Mexico, and there's a boat that is heading towards it. So at about L plus 30 minutes, the Dragon rigging is expected to complete. Again, rigging is where an employee as part of the recovery team will physically climb on top of Dragon and attach hardware necessary to hoist Dragon up and out of the water. Recovery ships also arrive at this time at L plus 38 minutes. That's when we're expecting to lift Dragon out of the water. L plus 40 minutes, Dragon will be on deck of the recovery vessel. And then at L plus 48 minutes, we are expecting Dragon hatch to open and the crew to egress after about 6 months in space.
That is the goal, to do this in under an hour, and it seems like the crew is right where they're supposed to be, right on time. We're getting thermal images of the fast boats out near the Crew Dragon Endeavour in the wonderfully smooth waters of the Gulf of Mexico, as predicted, which is fantastic. You can see there's 2 boats that are out towards the recovery vessel once we get a smoother lock on the vehicle itself. One of them collecting the parachutes, the other doing some of the rigging that you were talking about, Andy, which is super critical to the next series of steps.
Dragon, SpaceX's go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside momentarily.
Okay, copy that. We're ready.
So we should see one of the fast boats go out really right next to the capsule. And Andy, you were describing this a little bit earlier. We'll see some personnel climb on board. That rigging equipment is hardware that they have on board, and they have to attach certain things to certain areas because the recovery vessel itself, the Go Navigator, is also moving out to...
Dragon, SpaceX, request permission to come on board via display cam only.
Yeah, welcome on board on the display cam, SpaceX.
We copy. Thanks, Shane.
So the teams here in Mission Control Hawthorne will get a peek inside the vehicle itself, watching over their shoulder. The crew themselves really are just in a waiting position. Their seats were rotated for chute deployment and for splashdown, so they're in a slightly more upright position. Although they're not completely upright, it just help them to brace. You heard that a couple of times over the Dragon ground calls, brace for those chute deployments and for the splashdown itself. But really, they're in just a waiting posture at this point as the recovery teams do their job. It'll take the Go Navigator recovery vessel, which we're getting some of the images from right now, the thermal images. It takes it quite a bit to get out to the capsule itself, about 30 minutes, which is why we have the fast boats. Fast boats doing a lot of the work ahead of time to prepare it so that really when the Go Navigator arrives right next to the spacecraft, it is ready to hoist onto the recovery vessel and onto the Dragon nest.
You can see that each of the boats are outfitted with spotlights to make sure that they can, again, do all of their functions properly, as this is a nighttime recovery out on the East Coast. But it looks like they have plenty of lighting. And this is the second time that this particular capsule has landed.
Right.
So this capsule, Endeavour, was used as part of the Demonstration 2 mission last year, flying Bob and Doug, and it has splashed down and been recovered once before, so this is not its first rodeo.
Really a testament to the capability of these American spacecraft that are rotating crews to and from the International Space Station as part of these expeditions. It is truly an international team. From the camera views that you're seeing right now on board the Go Navigator is teams representing NASA, SpaceX, European Space Agency, and the Japanese Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, all of them on board. Truly an international government and commercial joint effort to make something like this possible.
So this is the first fast boat. Right now it is it's essentially doing safety checks, making sure that ordnances and hypergalls are still not persisting in the area immediately around the vehicle. They're also doing essentially an inspection of the capsule itself to make sure that integrity-wise it is good before we start to again rig the equipment for hoisting later on tonight.
So again, it's going to take some time. We're shooting for less than an hour to bring the Dragon Endeavour onto the recovery ship and to open up the hatches and egress the crew, or take them out and bring them onto the medical facilities. I can only imagine the views that were possible from right there in the Gulf of Mexico. Let's see. We do have a call-in from LEAH CHESHIER, NASA Communications, who's on the Go Navigator recovery ship and was able to witness the re-entry and splashdown of Crew Dragon Endeavour. Leah, if you can hear me, tell us about your experience witnessing Dragon Endeavour splash down, bringing a crew home from the International Space Station for the second time.
Gary, I can hardly explain how amazing this experience has been. Right now, as you said, I'm on Go Navigator. Right now, I'm at the looking forward to the fast boat towards the spacecraft. We were standing on top of the helipad where we just landed at about 9 p.m. Central, or 9 p.m. Eastern time, and so we stood back at the helipad watching the crew members streak through the atmosphere. It truly looked like a meteor, and actually at the exact same time we spotted the crew members, we did see a meteorite in the sky. So it was an incredible moment, and I was standing next to NASA astronaut Shannon Walker, who she herself just completed this journey 6 or 7 months ago as a member of the Crew-2 spacecraft and mission. And so it's been an incredible night here on Go Navigator. We can't ask for better conditions. It's wonderful temperatures. The sea is very smooth and glassy almost. And so things are just moving really smoothly here, and teams are executing everything necessary on board.
Leah, tell me what's happening as you are witnessing it. You mentioned landing not too long ago, about an hour and a half ago, on the recovery ship. Tell me what the teams have been doing. We witnessed the back end of that with the recovery boats deployed. What's been happening in preparation from your perspective to get ready for this moment?
We saw the fast boats and the jet ski pull up next to us, pretty near us, as we waited for the capsule to re-enter the water. And I actually have a very good visual of the capsule right now. And since that time, there have been several people on the ship, just making sure that all of the hydraulics and everything are ready to go to lift Crew Dragon up into the nest that is on the ship. And you'll see that as it pulls toward the platform that they will egress. They'll then move into medical checks. So all the team members here on the boat,
Dragon, SpaceX for status
a couple
update
of flights tonight on the helicopters, and they're ready to jump in.
Go ahead for status update.
Hypergol sweeps and unfired ordnance checks are nominal. Rigging is in progress. Approximately 5 minutes until capsule lift. Stand by for a PMC as our next step.
Copy 5 minutes before lift and standing by for PMC.
All right, we're hearing private medical conference coming up.
Maybe we can hold for a minute if you'd like, just to finish the set phone ops if you'd like.
Sounds good. I will call you back in 1 minute.
All right, and we're hearing those the crew sounding healthy from inside Crew Dragon Endeavour, walking through the final steps, getting a private medical conference. Leah, one more question before we let you go and witness some of the next series of events. Of course, we're going to be following all along the way, but after the crew enters into the Go Navigator vessel and does those medical checks, what are the next steps to get the crew home, either in Houston or in the European Space Agency?
It is an incredibly excellent process. So the crew members, after they've completed those medical checks, they will board a helicopter right here on the boat within just a couple of hours of splashing down. And once that takes off, they will board a NASA jet, which will take them back to Houston, back to their respective hometowns, especially those families that have been they began their mission on the International Space Station. Everything is moving on. I can't wait to have it.
LEAH Cheshire, NASA Communications, thank you for joining us and telling us a little bit about what's happening there at the recovery site. Best of luck to you. All right, that was LEAH Cheshire on board the Go Navigator recovery vessel, now heading back to inside the Crew Dragon. We're getting those views right over the shoulder. The crew standing by, helmet visors up, really just in a waiting posture as we're waiting for the fast boats and the teams out there to rig the Crew Dragon Endeavour with the proper equipment to hoist the capsule itself up onto the GO Navigator spacecraft, where you just heard LEAH CHESHIER and the remaining recovery teams are waiting for, of course, the series of medical checks and of course, personnel representing each of the space agencies, NASA, European Space Agency, JAXA, as well as SpaceX. So again, as expected, Crew Dragon Endeavour splashing down off the coast of Pensacola, Florida, right on time, 7:33 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. An incredible journey. We got a fly around of the International Space Station, documenting the exterior of the orbiting complex with digital photographs. The first time we've done that since 2018 with a Soyuz survey that was done. A lot of elements of the space station have been added since, so we'll be able to document that and check on the status of areas that can't normally be seen by some of the exterior cameras, as well as the robotic arm. You see, we are getting views from inside capsule Endeavour. The crew really just poised, seated, with their seats rotated slightly upright. You can see they still have access to some of the panels.
For status update.
Go ahead.
Boat's turned around and making its final approach to you. Just a couple hundred meters off. Just checking in to see if you're ready for that PMC.
We are ready for the PMC.
All right, in work. Next person you hear from should be a Nell.
So we just got updates that the recovery vessel is just a couple hundred meters away from the Dragon capsule, and they are gearing up for the PMC, which stands for Private Medical Conference. The flight surgeon will check in with each of the crew members to make sure they are doing well, as they have just returned back to Earth after 199 days in space. Right now, this is a view of the backside of the recovery vessel. That is essentially a crane. The bottom middle section is the platform or nest where the Dragon will be hoisted up and placed upon. And that platform actually will move towards the center of the boat into essentially a platform where the astronauts can step off of. And so, again, the boat is backing up towards the Dragon capsule. You can see it in the background there, and it'll hook up all of its lines to the rigging equipment that the rigger is currently attaching on the spacecraft, and will hoist it up and get it on top of the recovery vessel.
We are not too far away from the Dragon spacecraft. It's right off of the aft end of the recovery vessel itself. So right as expected, it was expected to be a 30-minute transit.
SpaceX, I'm back with you.
Yeah, about a 30-minute transit, and they got there in 20.
I think a big part of this is you look at the seas right now, and there's effectively no movement. Gary, Leah described it, witnessing it firsthand. It is glass-like,
pristine, yeah,
which makes really for the recovery operations just that much easier.
Really one of the very critical reasons why we are in an indirect handover posture. Again, the Crew-2 astronauts landing in the Gulf of Mexico before Crew-3 launched, it was really for this reason. It was because the weather at this moment in time was predicted to be as smooth and as fantastic as the weather predictions forecasted. So again, the crew is had a private medical conference that was an initial assessment before the docs on board have access to pull them out of the spacecraft. They have a pretty good idea of what to expect whenever they pull them out, so they'll know the right precautions to take and what's needed for each individual crew member. That, of course, privatized because of the medical reasons, but that is why we have medical personnel on board the recovery spacecraft, medical facilities on board, I'm sorry, not the recovery spacecraft, the recovery vessel, and medical facilities there as well. And of course, it'll be a time for the docs to do those initial checks before they, what's anticipated, will fly each of the crew members out on a helo back to shore, where there are planes staged for them to bring them back home. It's not going to be a very long transit at all until we have some crew members back home. Shane, Kimbrough, Megan MacArthur, Aki Hoshide, all planned to go on a NASA plane back to Houston. They'll land in Ellington Field, not too far away from the Johnson Space Center there, where they'll get to meet up with their family and friends, of course. Thomas Pesquet will board a separate plane and head over to Europe for the facilities over at the European Space Agency to do something similar. So we're continuing to provide coverage, even though the Crew Dragon and the crew inside have splashed down safely in the Gulf of Mexico at right on time, 7:33 p.m. Pacific, 10:33 p.m. Eastern. We'll continue to provide coverage until they egress or exit from the spacecraft itself. And once all 4 crew members are on board, we're expecting to get some calls from representatives of each of the space agencies of the astronauts that are on board Crew Dragon Endeavour now. JAXA and ESA all calling in to provide some remarks after a successful mission and return of all 4 crew members back to planet Earth.
And this here is a live view inside of the Dragon capsule. The crew members are inside, and really, Gary, as you mentioned, they are just waiting for the recovery team to do their job, hoist the Dragon out of the water before they can egress the vehicle.
From this view inside Crew Dragon Endeavour, over on the right side, Megan MacArthur, the pilot for the Crew-2 mission. You can see that little black antenna sticking out from her seat. She's on a satellite phone right now talking with the teams over in Mission Control Houston, getting confirmation that everyone's saying hi to the crew, checking in. Sounds like they're doing very well. If you remember back in the Demo 2 mission, It was a test mission for using Crew Dragon Endeavour, but really to verify that the SpaceX Crew-Dragon was ready to carry crews as part of regular crew rotation missions to and from the International Space Station. As part of that, they used the satellite phone as one of the checks and measures to ensure that the crew had the capability to use the satellite phone to call the various teams and report statuses. It was really a precaution and one of the test objectives of the mission itself. Now continuing that here on Crew-2.
And now the recovery vessel is that much closer to the Dragon capsule.
Dragon, SpaceX for status update.
Go ahead, SpaceX.
Rigging is complete. We're approximately 5 minutes until capsule lift.
Copy.
So you can see the person that is on the capsule itself. That is the rigger. We just got confirmation that the rigging has been completed. Now they are essentially securing the Dragon capsule to all of the rigging hardware that was attached to safely lift it up and out of the water and onto the recovery vessel.
We're seeing motion of the A-frame now, getting into position. The rigger making the final attachments necessary. If memory serves me right from previous recovery missions, the rigger will jump off the capsule into the water and make his way back into the recovery, or into one of the fast boats after he's done with this work.
Dragon, SpaceX, brace for capsule lift.
Copy, brace.
There he goes, as expected, jumped into the water. His job complete, attaching the all of the connection points to Crew Dragon Endeavour, making sure that it is stable as the A-frame itself, using hydraulic lifts, hoists Crew Dragon Endeavour out of the water onto that circular frame there you see at the base of the ship. That is the Dragon nest.
And Garrett, we are we're slightly ahead of schedule. We were expecting Dragon lift to begin at L plus 38 minutes. It is L plus 30 minutes now. So things continuing to go smoothly as part of Crew-2's return and recovery.
Seem to get better and more efficient with each mission.
Dragon, welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Personnel are completing final checks. Stand by for translation to the egress platform.
Copy, glad to board. Ready for translation.
All right, with that, we have confirmation that Crew Dragon Endeavour is on the Dragon Nest. It has been hoisted from the Gulf of Mexico and put onto the recovery ship. Where you saw the Dragon be gently placed is called the Dragon Nest. That whole section of the ship will be translated or moved in further into the ship to allow access to the side hatch. That'll be the next very important critical series of steps. There's personnel there that will work on the hatch to eventually open it. It'll be opened for the first time in 199 days. And we'll get the first glimpses of the crew inside. We should be able to witness the egress operations as well, each of the crew members getting out as long as the feeds permit. So we can welcome each of them inside. Okay.
So for those of you just joining us, the Dragon capsule has been lifted up and out of the water and is on the recovery vessel. We just saw a few shots of the crew on board the ship. What they're doing is securing the Dragon onto the ship to make sure it doesn't move as, again, it's being translated or moved towards the egress platform where the side hatch will be opened and the crew inside can egress the vehicle. The shot you see on screen right now is a view inside. It's a live shot of inside the capsule. On the left-hand side, that is Commander Shane Kimbrough, and to the right of him is pilot Megan MacArthur. What you don't see on screen is to the right of Megan MacArthur is mission specialist Thomas Pesquet, and to the left of Shane Kimbrough is mission specialist Aki Hoshide. They've had about an 8-hour journey from undocking from the International Space Station, and now they're on the recovery vessel.
Stand by for translation to egress platform.
Copy, we're ready.
There's that translation. Still getting views from inside Crew Dragon Endeavour. This is spectacular. We're less than 40 minutes after the Dragon itself splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico for the second time. Now, just again, less than 40 minutes later, the crew has been hoisted onto the recovery ship, and the Dragon nest itself has been translated over to the egress platform. The next series of steps will be personnel on the recovery vessel that are specialized in opening up that side hatch. Will do so. We have medical doctors on board that will take care of them after that. They'll provide initial medical care and assessment, egressing the crew from outside the Dragon and putting them into medical facilities that are on board to conduct a series of initial checks before they are flown by helicopter back to shore. The recovery vessel takes quite a bit of time to get back to shore, so they'll be flown so they can get right on an aircraft and fly home within a very short period of time. Again, we're going to provide continuous coverage until all crew members have egressed the vehicle. We also have representatives of NASA, JAXA, and ESA that are scheduled to be on the line to provide comments of a successful mission after the crew successfully splashed down, egressed, and are safe on board the recovery vessel.
Dragon, stand by for side hatch opening and egress. Next call will be from the recovery team. Crew-2, congratulations. Mission control, send it off.
Hey, thanks again, Chris, to you and your team. We'll see you guys soon.
Side hatch is open.
You see the waves coming out.
Even from inside Dragon now, we're seeing some of the recovery personnel. The first humans that these crew members have seen on planet Earth for 199 days.
So I believe the recovery team is checking in with the crews to make sure they're all doing fine. We actually have to remove the footrest underneath the seats prior to the crew getting out. It just makes it a little bit easier for them to egress the vehicle with that out of the way.
We're on a great timeline right now, just 40 minutes after splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico. The side hatch is open, and there are teams inside Crew Dragon Endeavour. It's a pretty quick recovery, not bad.
Oh, this is
Live views inside Endeavour. Wonderful. Getting all 4 crew members thumbs up. They are feeling good. Live streamed from on the recovery boat. Spectacular.
So you can see some more of the footrests are coming out of the vehicle. And once all those are removed, we are expecting the crew to egress one at a time. So if you are just joining us, left-hand side of the screen, that is a view from inside of the Dragon capsule. It has been recovered out of the water and is currently on the recovery vessel. The side hatch is open, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. The recovery team are continuing to do some more checkouts and procedures before we start to see the Crew-2 astronauts egress the Dragon capsule.
Still standing by for the egress of the 4 astronauts of Crew-2. Outside of Crew Dragon Endeavour, you can see stationed over to the left there is a stretcher, part of the nominal procedure. Once they are egressed from the vehicle, they'll be put into the stretcher and taken over to medical facilities. This is a standard precaution that's been exercised for each of the crew recovery missions so far. First crew member being egressed from Crew Dragon Endeavour. Got to witness some applause there from some of the recovery personnel as well. It's hard to tell which crew member that was. And we got confirmation that was Megan MacArthur. That was the pilot of the Crew-2 mission, the first crew member egressed from inside Crew Dragon Endeavour. Next out is Commander Shane Kimbrough, outside of Crew Dragon Endeavour, being translated over to the stretcher per nominal procedure. Waves, smiles on his face. A fantastic journey. 199 days in space, splashing down on time.
here comes the third member to egress the capsule. This is Aki Hoshide. Some fist bumps and smiles from Aki. Again, after 199 days in space, returning to Earth.
All crew members flashing the peace sign for Crew-2. I love it.
And that leaves one more member inside of Dragon. That is Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency. And here comes Thomas.
That's the ESA doc on board, checking in with Thomas Pesquet. There you go. Everybody flashing the Crew-2. I love it.
Yes.
Fist bumps, high fives.
For posterity. So that is all 4 members of the Crew-2 team safely on a boat. I was going to say on land for a second, but they're on a boat, and they will head to all their respective places they need to go. But what a great recovery. We talked about how things were going to speed up and get more exciting, and that recovery was one of the fastest